Two teachers and a milk tray in the fourth grade taught me some of the toughest lessons about resilience and trust. It didn't seem like much at the time, but it ended up being a pivotal moment in my life. Now, this video contains references to physical and sexual abuse and difficult childhood experiences like bullying. I'm sharing my story with the intention of offering hope and insight, but it may be triggering for some people. I grew up in a very, very poor part of Los Angeles. My childhood was far from easy. I was abused physically, I was abused mentally, and sexually for as long as I can remember. My mom did a lot of drugs, and she lived with a man that was very abusive to us. For me, this was all just normal. It was so normal. Even the man living upstairs in our apartment abused his wife, and their kid would come out and join us on the stoop. It was like both houses were going at the same time, and we would just sit there and talk or play hopscotch. It was like so normal. It's crazy to look back on that. I was 9 years old. My mom's rare acts of kindness were always followed by her saying I didn't deserve them. So, for example, I remember one instance very, very clearly. She bought me a beret that I had wanted. Mind you, I never got gifts. Even at Christmas, I didn't always get gifts. I was sitting on this rocking chair thing, and she threw this beret on my lap, and she said, "Here, I got you something, even though you don't deserve it." Right? That's how I got gifts. Every mistake that I made was met with threats or violence or threats of violence. My punishments were brutal, but seeing my mom get hit was even worse. I never understood why she wore sunglasses inside until I was older. From a very, very young age, I took on responsibilities that no child should have to take on, but I did it because that's just what you do, right? I didn't think about it. I didn't think, well, I sure need to take on this responsibility, right? I just made sure that my younger brother took baths. I made sure that he got up and went to school. Our walks to school were awful. It was about a mile or so from our house, but the neighborhoods were horrible. Gangs, violence, just really bad neighborhoods. And I do remember one time that there was an attempted kidnapping with me and my brother. I remember this car, it was on Washington Boulevard. This car drove up next to the sidewalk. It's a busy road. And I remember I took my brother and pushed him over away from the road. He's 4 years younger than me. I pushed him away, and this car came up and they start yelling at us. And then someone started getting out of the car, and I remember I just screamed like crazy. Screamed. They left and went away, and I went to school and told the principal about it. And then the police followed us to school for the next few weeks. I remember that very clearly. School was actually my escape. I loved learning. I still do. I still love school. I had this childhood fantasy of accidentally getting locked in the library all weekend, like completely locked in. Nobody knew where I was and nobody could open the door. I would just sit in the library all weekend and read. But socially, I was stunted, I think, and school was really tough for me. I was bullied relentlessly. I was mocked for my clothes and my hygiene. We were poor. I got into a lot of fights. But when I was in class and when the teacher was teaching, I found peace. I was good there. Grades came really easy for me. Then came the fourth grade, and with it came Mrs. Vest and Ms. Moran. Ms. Moran was very emphatic that you called her Ms. Moran. At our school, they were known as the mean teachers. No one wanted to get those teachers in the fourth grade. No, they were the ones that you talked about. They were like, oh God, I hope I don't get them. I did. One day out of the blue, Mrs. Vest asked me if I could be the milk monitor, and I was absolutely stoked. I just felt so important. I felt so special, and I was so proud. So being the milk monitor, it was little teeny cartons of milk. They were 10 cents each, and they came in chocolate and white, right? So these were for the kids that brought their lunch to school. And the milk tray, it was two trays, this silver tray, and it had the money thing, the little container that you can lock the money up in, where I gave change and stuff like that. And then it had like a pallet, I guess, of milk on top, and then like a little pallet on the bottom. And it was so cool to get to do this because I got to leave class early and then go to the cafeteria and eat lunch by myself before my shift. Okay. And this was an absolute luxury to me. I can't even tell you how awesome this was. We were on the free lunch program, which meant that for some reason we had to go last in line. When you came down for lunches, there was all these benches that were in these rows, and you would sit with your class. But the kids that were on the free lunch program actually had to sit on the very last bench that was let in. I don't know why that is. It's absolutely horrible looking back on that now. At the time, it was like, no big deal. That's just what we did. So by the time I'd get in for my lunch and I'd sit down to eat, everyone around me was already almost done. Their favorite thing to do was to take whatever food was left over and mix it all up in one of those milk cartons or even on the floor and force me to eat it. Just under threat of being beat, I guess. It was disgusting. I still can't believe no one saw that was going on. So at first, working that milk tray was amazing. I felt like I was doing something really important. I felt kind of badass, I guess. I don't know how else to describe it. Puffed out, I don't know. But that feeling didn't last for long because then the bullies noticed. And every day the bullies came and they tried to take that milk money from me. And just about every day I got beaten up. And again, looking back, I don't know why it kept happening. I don't know why no one noticed. So I wanted to quit. I was scared, and I was scared they were going to take that money and then the blame was going to come on me and that I was going to get in trouble. So it just wasn't worth it to me anymore. I was scared all the time, scared at home, scared at school. I just didn't want to do it. So I went to Mrs. Vest and Ms. Moran and told them that I wanted to stop. And instead of letting me off the hook, they actually doubled down. So I remember her saying, well, we got to find somebody else to do it. So please just do it until we find somebody. But can you also do this responsibility? And the other responsibility they gave me was flag monitor. Now, I can't even tell you, being flag monitor was like the shit. I was the shit. So that meant I had to come to school early every day and raise the flag out front. So I had keys to the flag closet, right? So I'd open up the flag closet and I'd get the flag and I'd, hook it onto the thing and pull it up the big flagpole that was out front. It was a big deal. I had to be responsible for keys. I mean, that was a really big deal. I had to be there every morning, no exceptions. I was there every day, bright and early. I never let that flag touch the ground. I was so careful of that. Also part of being the flag monitor, in the morning, when all the kids would line up in the playground with their classes, we would play, I think it was a Star Spangled Banner or something on this old ass record player that had like a microphone to the speaker so that it would kind of blare out to the kids on the playground. And I would get to walk down in the middle of everyone with this flag. And I remember the flag was heavy, so I like rested it on my belly button. And then I'd walk out to the middle and everyone would say the Pledge of Allegiance, and then I would turn back around. And then I'd put the flag and the record player and everything away. So it meant I got to go to class late, which was cool because then by the time I actually got to class, everyone was already sitting and settled and the teacher was already talking. So I didn't have to worry about getting hit or taunted or anything like that before class. It was awesome. And then every day after school, I would stay late to take it down, and there would always be someone there to help me fold the flag properly. And again, don't let it touch the ground. So these responsibilities weren't just chores. They were, I guess, lifelines. I mean, they just made me feel so good. Even though I was scared, I felt seen and I felt valued. Mrs. Vest and Ms. Moran believed in me. And over time, I started to believe in myself. I was still bullied, but there was a shift that happened. And I remember the shift. I remember that I started standing up for myself more. I don't know if it was having people on my side. I don't know if I was just becoming stronger and more resilient. I don't know. But having these responsibilities showed me I was worthy. I was worthy of trust. So one day the bullies cornered me again, and they tried to take the milk money in the container. And I remember I took the container and I got on the ground and I had it, in my belly, and I was like in this fetal position, just tight as I could be, in the tightest little ball, trying to protect this money. I was trying to protect the money because I was scared if they stole it that I would get in trouble. So they were hitting me and I was screaming, and someone finally saw what was going on. And it was another student. And I remember her so clearly. I have a picture of her and I remember her name. I'm not going to say it here, but she was like the bully of the bullies. And to this day, I have no idea why she did what she did. I have no idea why she peeled everybody off of me, started screaming, was threatening them. I'm going to kick your ass if you don't leave her alone, right? No idea why. Now, remember, we were 9, right? 9, 10 years old, okay? We were little. So when that day happened, I can very clearly remember that it was a turning point for me. Now, she never became my friend, but she started watching out for me. And people kind of knew that you didn't mess with me because she would mess with you back. So I started like being able to get my turn at tetherball. I never got to play tetherball because I could never get a turn. And the monkey bars, I could get a turn on the monkey bars. No one tried to steal my milk money anymore. Kids stopped blocking the bathroom stall. Like, you try to go to the bathroom and they block the stall so you can't get in. Or if you do get in, then they block the door so you can't get out. That stopped happening. I was still bullied, but the beatings stopped. It was mostly the taunting. I could handle that. I just remember this feeling of fear just dissipated so much. I just remember that this experience in the 4th grade was one of those moments that obviously set me on this path to believe more in myself and to be resilient. I learned that I could do the hard things because I'd always done the hard things. But I also learned that I was trustworthy and I was responsible. And these were things to be proud of, not embarrassed of or ashamed of. Mrs. Vest and Ms. Moran gave me that. They gave me courage with that milk tray. What it comes down to is that we all need someone to believe in us, to see our potential when we can't see it ourselves. And they did that for me. My childhood was rough. It was horrid. And it did a lot of damage to me. But I remember this experience, looking back on it, this experience was crucial. Not just for teaching me the value of hard work and the importance of being dependable, but for showing me how essential it is to have people in your corner. I'm sharing this story because I want to encourage you to be a Mrs. Vest or Ms. Moran in someone else's life. Even in the worst situations, there can be a glimmer of hope, and you can be that glimmer that helps someone else shine. I have been through a lot of therapy to deal with what happened to me when I was a kid, but this moment is one that I know helped me grow. So that's the story of how a couple of teachers and a milk tray helped shape who I am. My childhood was not an easy journey, and there were definitely a lot of rough patches along the way. But I had these moments of unexpected support and help along the way that slightly changed my path just a little bit. And I can see that clearly now. Even in the toughest of situations, there's always something to be learned and someone who can make a difference. So whether it's being a mentor to someone who needs it or just believing in yourself when it's hard, those small acts can create really big changes. So thank you for listening to my story. If you've had similar experiences or this story resonated with you, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Thank you so much. That's all I have for today. I'll see you in the next video.